Canadian snowbirds haven't been flocking to South Florida lately. President Trump's immigration rules and tariffs have caused controversy in Canada.
Florida's economy is driven largely by tourism, and this year the state is on pace to set a new record for a number of visitors that come here.
Tourism officials say they've seen a marked decline in the number of Canadians visiting the state since U.S. President Donald Trump began making 51st state comments, and some Canadians I spoke to here in Fort Lauderdale say
Florida's golden image as a dream destination is beginning to fade, not because of hurricanes or market crashes, but because of a political gamble that backfired. Choices made in the state's capital have scared away some of its most loyal visitors, wiping out billions in revenue that once powered small towns and beachside communities. What started as a show of power has turned into one of the most expensive mistakes in Florida's history. How did a paradise built on tourism end up driving people away? And what does this mean for Florida's future? Let's find out. If a state depends on visitors to survive, why would its leaders risk pushing them away? That's the question haunting Florida right now. Once celebrated for its sunshine, ocean breeze, and endless hospitality, the state is now facing a self-inflicted crisis no hurricane could match. It began with decisions that insulted the very people who kept its economy alive and ended with a political move so reckless it threatened to erase billions in revenue. For decades, Florida's closest allies weren't in Washington or Wall Street, they were in the north, Canada. Every winter, thousands of Canadians left behind icy streets to settle into Florida's coastal towns and quiet neighborhoods. These weren't short-term tourists. They were seasonal residents, staying for months, spending freely, and fueling the heartbeat of local economies. Each household poured more than $30,000 into Florida's economy every winter on groceries, gas, dining, entertainment, and housing. Their presence kept businesses alive between summer peaks and off-season lulls. For small towns, these Canadian visitors weren't optional, they were essential. But that bond began to break when politics got involved. Donald Trump called Canada the 51st state and imposed tariffs that hit Canadian industries directly. His tone, paired with those trade penalties, triggered outrage across Canada. While the policies were national, the backlash hit Florida hardest, a state whose economy was deeply tied to Canadian tourism. Many Canadians felt personally insulted, and in their eyes, visiting the U.S. meant supporting a country that had disrespected their leaders. Their response was swift. Travel to Florida plummeted almost overnight. Congressman Jared Moskowitz reported an 80% drop in Canadian tourists. Local business owners began to notice empty hotels and silent beaches once filled with northern visitors. Richard, a hotel owner in Hollywood, Florida, said his longtime guests stopped returning, openly admitting they no longer wanted to spend money where they felt unwelcome. Within a year, his Canadian bookings were cut in half. This wasn't a minor dip, it was an economic disaster, and before Florida could recover, its lawmakers made things worse. In a baffling move, politicians proposed eliminating all 62 tourist development councils, or TDCs, across the state. These councils are the marketing backbone of Florida's tourism industry. Funded through hotel taxes, they promote Florida worldwide, organize events, restore beaches, and attract major conventions. In short, they're the reason millions choose Florida over anywhere else. Getting rid of them would be like shutting down the engine that drives Florida's most profitable industry. Yet lawmakers defended it as an effort to cut wasteful spending. In reality, it was a move that could dismantle the foundation of Florida's entire economy. According to Florida politics, these councils generate around $2 billion in annual revenue. Experts warn that abolishing them could trigger a $37 billion economic hit and erase $22.5 billion in worker wages. And for what? A $60 reduction in property tax. Robert Scrobb, executive director of Destinations Florida, called it what it was: economic sabotage. He warned that the decision would jeopardize the livelihoods of more than 2 million Floridians, waiters, cleaners, cashiers, and small business owners, not corporations. Florida rose to global fame because it understood one thing: tourism doesn't survive on luck or good weather. It survives on marketing. Other destinations, Hawaii, California, Mexico, the Caribbean, all offer sunshine. What set Florida apart was its relentless promotion and the feeling it gave visitors that there was no better escape on earth. But that legacy is now being dismantled by leaders who believe success sustains itself. The timing couldn't be worse. As tensions with Canada grew, border crossings dropped sharply. Forbes reported that Canadian car trips to the U.S. fell 34% in August 2025. Florida, the state most dependent on Canadian visitors, took the hardest blow. At a 2025 tourism conference, Governor Ron DeSantis proudly announced that Florida attracted 34.4 million visitors in the year's second quarter. But buried in that number was a troubling detail: only 640,000 were Canadians, a 20% decline from the previous year. Officials brushed it off, saying visitors from other countries would make up for the loss. But industry experts knew better. Canadian tourists aren't easily replaced. They stay longer, spend more, and become part of local communities. A Brazilian family might visit for a week, a Canadian couple might stay for 3 months. The difference isn't just numbers, it's impact. Across Fort Myers Beach and Clearwater, the signs were visible. Empty storefronts. 4. Sale signs, where snowbirds once stayed. Small towns, cutting staff and reducing hours. These weren't statistics, they were lives changed by political choices. Industry experts sounded the alarm. Annie Holcomb, a vacation rental developer in Panama City, said it best. You don't stop marketing when you're on top. She's right, because when you do, the world forgets you. In the global tourism race, every sunny destination from Mexico to the Caribbean is fighting for attention. If Florida stops reminding the world why it's special, travelers will simply go elsewhere. And the damage spreads beyond hotels. TDCs also fund sports tourism events, tournaments, and conventions that bring millions in business. Without those councils, that income disappears too. One analyst summed it up perfectly. If you destroy the TDC, you destroy Florida's ability to compete. The irony. Florida was thriving before this. In 2024, it welcomed nearly 143 million visitors, a record year, generating more than $150 billion in economic impact. Over 2 million residents earned their living through tourism. Florida had found a formula that worked, but instead of protecting it, lawmakers gambled it away, risking decades of progress. So, the question remains, why? Why pursue a policy that weakens the economy and alienates loyal visitors? Too many. The answer is simple. Political theater, a performance meant to look tough on spending, even if it means crippling the very industry that sustains millions. Now, the world is watching, as Florida faces the fallout of decisions driven by pride, not logic. The free state of Florida, once known for warmth and welcome, now risks being remembered for driving away the very people who kept it alive. Yes, the beaches are still beautiful, the sun still shines, but without visitors to fill hotels, restaurants, and resorts, that paradise feels empty. And the Canadian boycott shows no signs of slowing down. According to Tourism Economics, visits from Canada to the U.S. dropped more than 25% this year, with Florida suffering the steepest fall. Many Canadians who once spent winters in Florida are now choosing Brazil, Europe, or even their own backyard. This isn't just a financial setback. It's a cultural loss. For decades, Canadians weren't outsiders. They were part of Florida's rhythm. They built relationships, communities, and traditions. Now, that trust has been replaced with resentment and trust. Once broken, is hard to rebuild. Governor DeSantis brands Florida as the Free State, a land of openness and opportunity. Yet, the message his leadership sends abroad feels the opposite. Florida's leaders boast about beaches and theme parks, while their policies make some visitors feel unwelcome. This contradiction lies at the heart of Florida's crisis. It's what happens when politics overshadows economics. When pride outweighs the lesson is clear. No industry, no matter how strong, is immune to bad leadership. Take your visitors for granted, and you risk losing them forever. As Florida heads into another tourist season, the big questions remain. Can the state win back the Canadians who once called it their winter home? Can it attract enough new travelers to fill the gap? And can it repair its global image after years of political missteps? The answers will decide the next chapter of Florida's story, and whether the Sunshine State can shine again. That's all for today. What are your thoughts on this? Let us know down below, and if you enjoyed this report, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss what's next. Thanks for watching.